Welcome to episode 2 of Thunderbolt. Today we're going to talk about how Metaverse is changing gaming. To do that, I've invited Kasim to come along. And Kasim, if you could introduce yourself to our students.
Yes, I am Kasim. I used to be a pro gamer and I've played titles like Tekken 7, Tekken Tag Tournament 2, and I also used to stream some games such as Age of Empires 2 as well.
Now, last month I had Jane come out and we talked about how Metaverse is going to change our lives, literally, and how we should be prepared for it. But I cannot help to think that had somewhat already started in the world of gaming. Now, I'll give you an example. My daughter, who is 6, she learned coding. And with that, she started playing Roblox and she started creating, game maps. And I was shocked to realize just, a month ago that she has been making $40 to $50 every month with it. And, only 6, and she's making money through it. And somehow she had built a real connection between, the digital game world, the internet world, to her real world. So how is Metaverse and all these technology changing the way people play games?
Well, I think what we're seeing now in gaming now is a lot of the games are sort of making a push towards open world environments where you can explore for however many hours and sort of explore the landscape. But I think some of the more popular games, especially amongst the younger generation, would be games like Roblox and Minecraft. And I think the main appeal to these games is that you can actually create your own world and pretty much make what you want to make in that world. And even though those two types of games haven't really, gained any sort of interest from professional gamers, they have gained interest from, I would say, casual gamers. So people who want to just play for fun or even maybe use it as an escape from their regular life. And I also think that the link between the digital world and the real world is just going to get stronger as time goes on. I think there's a few examples of some platforms that we can see. For example, there's a platform called Decentraland where digital real estate is selling for millions of dollars. And another great example is a very popular rapper actually bought some land in that game, and then all the plots around his house suddenly skyrocketed in price. Now, you might think this is a useless idea to buy digital real estate because you can't really rent it out. But the idea behind this real estate is that any transaction that happens inside the game in those houses, the owner will get a percentage of that transaction, and that transaction is paid out through cryptocurrencies or token currencies.
Right, and we call them non-fungible tokens.
Yes,
NFTs.
right.
Now, I've also heard like brands like Gucci have started selling clothes on, the Roblox universe or the Minecraft universe. Why buy them? I mean, and these are not cheap. They're $500-$600 game, jackets. Why do we buy them?
I think a lot of the reason why people might want to buy some accessories for their game character is just for the sort of enjoyment factor that they might get from having to wear what they want to wear in the game, or even just to show off to their friends. For example, me and my brother, we sometimes do play a free-to-play game called Call of Duty. It's like a battle royale type of game. And even though there's no advantage to me buying the skins in that game, I do sometimes pay $2 or $3 to get something that looks a bit better, just so I can show my brother or show everyone else in the game that I have the most shiny gun or a gold jacket or a gold-plated armor. So I think a lot of it is to just show people around you that you're maybe serious about the game, that you've invested some time and you're a better player than just someone who has a no skin, which is kind of a derogatory term that people use in the gaming world to people who just use their base form, who don't customize their character. So I think a lot of it is just to show other people how good you are, how much experience you have, and how much you've invested into the game too.
Recently, my daughter and we started playing this game called Animal Crossing. And one of the tricks that we found while we were playing was how we were able to disconnect the internet and manipulate time. And we came to realize then that time in games aren't real. do you think once the metaverse reality of gaming gets more connected to reality, do you think the time will be relevant or realistic to games in real life, or will it be still different?
I think as the technology develops and the amount of data we can transmit to the digital world increases, I think the relationship between time in the real world and time in the digital world will definitely become convoluted or disrupted. And I think a really good example of this is when we dream, for example, which in our dream world, it feels like it's 2 or 3 hours or a long time. But in the real world, that's only maybe 2 or 3 seconds that's actually gone past. And I think this same thing could possibly be experienced in the metaverse, which is an interesting idea, but also a scary idea for a lot of people. For example, someone who might have disabilities or might have a leg missing for whatever reason, they could experience thousands of lifetimes in the metaverse and have only passed 1 day in the real world. And that would allow them to experience a really happy moment or a happy few lifetimes in the digital world. But that could also become an escape for some people who might also be wasting their actual life in the real world for the sake of the digital world.
Now, speaking of Neuralink, you had once mentioned that metaverse reality or metaverse gaming have changed the way we send in data. And that was a really interesting way of explaining, because I never thought, moving the joystick or pressing the button as transmitting data. Now, how is future gaming be different once we stop using our fingers and hands?
Well, yeah, so even now, currently, we have access to a large amount of data using the internet, but we're essentially limited by how fast we can type or even how fast we can speak to our assistants on our phones. But once we do develop the technology, which is being developed right now, and we can essentially become a giant stream of data from the real world into the digital world, I think that the limitation rate will essentially have just become non-existent. So that means we can transmit data to the digital world and back almost instantaneously. So I think what that means for us is that we'll be able to essentially create any world in the digital world using our imagination or come up with whatever solution we have in our mind within the digital space, as long as we are connected by that neural link.
And how would you picture that world to be? Is that a happy world, or is it a scary world?
Well, I think it depends on the person who's connected to the world, but for me, it does look more of a happy place, and I think a lot of people might be able to live their fantasies in that world too, or maybe even confront some of their fears in that world if that's the way they wanted to go.
But if you think about, games are already addictive as it is, right? I for one would imagine that there will be even more addicts to like the gaming world, because you could literally, once you become a character in a game, you might just want to live there. Who wants to come back to this grim reality where you got to work 9 to 5 or you work at some drop shop market but in the game you're a king. You're that superstar knight and a soldier. Why would you want to ever come back?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and I think the 3 major concerns for security in the digital world is your privacy, which is your data and who you are. Also the evolution of new types of scams that you might experience in the digital world. And then third, which is what you mentioned, which is video game addiction, which will be that much more real since you're actually experiencing it using not only your eyes and your ears, but your entire body. All your senses will be engulfed in the digital world, so it will feel that much more real and that much more addictive.
Right. Now, how can we prepare for ourselves, for this kind of future addictive gaming? Because it feels like what we got to worry more about is how our children gonna be, right? Because they are out there. Already Roblox, Minecraft, these games are simple but super addictive. But imagine them actually doing that in the metaverse, using goggles and gloves, and how they could actually have limitless number of Lego blocks and limitless number of Thomas train sets. They'll be in the metaverse all day long. How do we prepare for something like this?
I think, in my honest opinion, I don't think we can prepare for it in any way. And I think it's just going to be something that we have to experience and sort of go through for a few years for us to really understand and get to grips with the technology. And I think it's really important to understand how people might actually perceive the metaverse as well. For example, if we just think about the simple pencil, there's actually a really good article I read the other day that no one person in the world can actually make a pencil from start to finish. And a pencil is quite a simple tool that we use every day. But there isn't one person in the world that can make all the things we need for a pencil. But everyone knows what a pencil is. It can draw, it can write, we can do things with it. And I think the same sort of idea might exist for the metaverse, whereas people might not understand the technology behind it or maybe the dangers behind it, but they will understand that this is a tool that I can use to experience a new world or my fantasies or whatever I want to experience, I can experience using this thing. And they might not have the understanding or the presence of mind to realize that there's also some disadvantages or some things they might need to consider before using it.
Okay. All right. Wow, that was a fascinating talk about iPencil, right? Yeah, good. All right. I guess that concludes my questions. If there's anything that you want to add and to tell our students.
Yes, there is a few things. I think it's important to realize that although this might be a really exciting time for Metaverse and the future of gaming in general, that there's a whole new horizon available to us to explore and to create in, that maybe we should take some time to just let the technology grow and let there be some regulations involved before we sort of jump into this world, because we really have no idea about the sort of medical implications or the mental health implications that such technology might have on you, especially if it is so engulfing that you really feel like you're inside of that world. So even though it is very exciting and very interesting, I would say just give it a few years and let the technology really develop before you jump into the abyss, as you call it.
All right. That was an intriguing talk. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
All right.